Hey everyone, Bill Dentremont here from the Carver Fire Station, bringing you a little bit of value to the consumers today. I'm here with my new friend, Assistant Deputy Chief Jesse Boyle. Thanks. I'm doing good, thanks. Super excited to be here. We're going to talk about smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. We want to make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on out there and how you can best protect yourself and your pets and your family. So we were just talking about the difference between hardwired smoke detectors and battery operated. And could you pick up kind of where we left off on that?
So when we go out into the field and we respond to somebody's request for help for their detectors or we're doing an inspection, we have a lot of specific questions because the code itself is very confusing. One of the questions we hear a lot is, why does my smoke detector have to have a voice associated with it? So one of the newer fire codes requires that if you have a detector that picks up smoke and carbon monoxide, it must have a voice that differentiates between the two devices and which one is alarming. And the reason for that is, let's say you hear your smoke detector go off at 2 o'clock in the morning. You hear the detector, you go off, you check your house, you don't see any fire, you don't see any smoke, you dismiss it as a false alarm, and you go back to bed. The problem with that is that may not have been a smoke detector, that may have been the carbon monoxide detector that was an alarm. So the new detectors, when it activates, they typically have a different beep also, but if they're not going off at the same time, how would you know which beep it is, especially in the middle of the night? So the newer detectors are going to have a voice inside the detector that announces whether it's a smoke or fire problem or whether it's a carbon monoxide problem. Now remember, carbon monoxide is odorless, colorless, you can't smell it, you can't see it, you're not going to be able to tell that it's present. So it's important for that detector to operate properly and let you know what's going on.
You're not going to know what's there until it's too late.
Correct, yeah.
Right. Now, how old should these detectors be?
So the code states that the detectors need to be replaced every 10 years. In reality, carbon monoxide detectors tend to fail around 7 to 8 years. The way that the technology works is it accumulates the carbon monoxide over time, and based on how much residual CO is in the house at any time, that detector will fail at an earlier date. If there are smokers in the house, cigarette smoke creates carbon monoxide, and that'll cause the detector to fail sooner. Or if you have a malfunctioning furnace that's putting up maybe more carbon monoxide than it should, the detectors are likely to fail earlier. Now, there's also an alarm associated with the CO detector that will say when the detector is at the end of its life. It'll be a slightly different alarm, and if you look in the back of any detector, it's going to indicate what those chirps indicate. So there's an alarm chirp, there's a low battery chirp, there's also a chirp that's associated with the end of the life of the alarm.
Okay, well, and regarding hardwired or batteries, how often should you change the batteries or check them?
Battery 6 months, no matter what. Whether you have a hardwired detector with a battery backup or a straight battery detector, every 6 months. And it's something I also want to mention is that there is some confusion with hardwired detectors and how they communicate through the rest of the house. So there are two components of a hardwired detector. The first is that it receives its power from the house so that it has energy to operate. The second is something that's called interconnected. So if you have, let's say, a 2-story home and you have a fire situation in your basement, the detector goes off in the basement, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to hear that detector on the second floor. So an interconnected system sends all the detectors off at once. So if there's a fire, all the detectors in the house go into alarm. Now, in the past, it had been required you'd have to have wires to actually do that. But there are new detectors on the market that can be battery-powered detectors that are wirelessly connected. So if there is an alarm, again, in your basement and you're on the second floor and you live in an older home, pre-1975 to be specific, which is when the code changed for hardwire, those detectors can now communicate wirelessly. Now, that's not a replacement for homes that are built after 1975. If they had hardwired detectors, they have to remain hardwired.
Okay. Wow, I learned something there. Just on the life expectancy of a carbon monoxide detector being possibly 7 years, and if somebody smokes or you have dust accumulating through the house, it could shorten the lifespan of that.
And that brings up another good point too. Is all detectors require a little bit of maintenance. Besides the batteries every 6 months, it's a great idea, and it'll say it right in the manufacturer's recommendations. They need to be cleaned regularly. Dust them off, vacuum them out is great, and also test them. Every detector has a test button on it.
Right.
They need to be tested, and that's a great thing to do with your family, so that the children of your family know what it sounds like when that detector goes off. You don't want them to hear it for the first time during an emergency. Have your family fire drills. Set that detector off, activate it so that the children know what's going on. We don't recommend to do it and scare them either. Make sure that they know that you're going to do it.
Right. Normally I would do that to scare my children, but for the sake of this, we will not do that.
Yeah.
Great information. Guys, if you have any questions, contact your local fire department. Again, we're the beneficiary of coming out here to Carver today, meeting great people, getting a tour of their facility, getting to learn about what these guys do. So thank you for all you do for the community.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And guys, hopefully you brought some value. We'll see you next time. Thank you.